So tonight it gives me a great pleasure and joy to introduce to you our beautiful, my beloved sister, Nura Laird, as our guest speaker, for tonight. Um, our sister, Nura, is an extraordinary woman, truly a master healer and a beautiful light in this world. And she was born in Philadelphia and graduated from Smith College and UMass Amherst with a master's in education. And she is a pioneer in the fields of holistic education, spiritual peacemaking, and integrative cancer care. She co-founded the University of Spiritual Healing and Sufism and the Shafi Institute. She's a graduate, a faculty member and director of the Masters of Divinity in Spiritual Peacemaking at the University of Sufism and Healing. She also co-founded the two holistic alternative schools in the 70s through the 90s, one of which, the Rainbow Community School in Asheville, North Carolina, and is internationally recognized today for innovation and excellence. Longtime student of Sufism, Nura has studied and lived this path since 1977. She was blessed to spend many, many years in close proximity to our guide, Sidi Muhammad al-Jamal. She's also willing to dive deeply into the inner work that the path to God calls for and brings her unique gift into the world in an extraordinary way. Nura's passion is to help restore the real love and peace to many families and guide them and bring more love and peace into the world. And those who know her know that she has succeeded in this heartfelt goal. Allah has blessed her with a beautiful holy family, married for 50 years with our beloved Wadud, and she has two daughters, Sarah and Camilla. And I know Sarah has a beautiful son, Isaac, and I hope I didn't miss other members of your beautiful family. Several years ago on Valentine's Day, Nura was diagnosed with cancer. And it's a striking day to receive a diagnosis like that. Nura and her husband, Dr. Wadud, and the two daughters all joined together to support her healing and found that the experience brought much, much more love to the family, authentic communication and transformation, and to all of us on the Sufi path. And about the healing process, Nura says always that looking back, the most important upshot was that Allah brought so much more love and mercy into my being that I can access now. My lenses now are full of that love and mercy. Somehow the love is in the family just exploded and has lasted and just keeps growing and growing. One of Nora's gifts is to be deeply present with people facing profound life challenges. She shows us how to be the earth for each other and to be the real holy tree, giving love and mercy and cherishing each other every moment. Nura teaches tonight for one of her favorite chapters in the Music of the Soul, the brothers in God, Al-Ikhwan Fillah. And that's, I think it's page 42 43 in my book, but in some other textbooks, it's 42. So please welcome my beloved sister. Yeah.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you, dear sister. That's beautiful. Oh, okay. Well, I want to read something first from this book, The Song of the Flute of the Deep Knowing. Probably most of you know this book. I have to admit it's a book I don't go to very often, but I went to it for this class, and on page 7, there's a little section that I want to read called About the Guide. This is about Sidi, and this is his writing. It's in his words. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I live all my life in the world of the unity. I could not leave this world for a moment. This is not from myself, but it is from my beloved God. He put me in his heart to give his message to all his children from every country and from every kind of people, because the religion of God is the religion of the love and the religion of the peace. No one can take the real love or the real peace if he does not have the real knowing. And the real knowing is not found except in the heart and the spirit of the perfect man, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who puts Allah in his heart. He is the wine for that, and he is the cup for that, and from him comes everything, and no one can truly live without him. La ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, Muhammadan Rasulullah, alayhi salatullah, la ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, Ibrahim Rasulullah, alayhi salatullah, la ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, Musa Rasulullah, alayhi salatullah, la ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, Isa Rasulullah, alayhi salatullah. Allahumma anta salam, wa minka salam, wa ilayka yaudu salam. Tabarakta Rabbana wa ta'alaita, ya dhul jalali wal ikram. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome, everybody. First, I want to read some more pages from the Song of the Flute of the Deep Knowing, excerpts of pages 203 to 204. CD says, when everything has life, this means it has nafs. Everything is from the first word when he said be, and he sent everything through the nafs, from the nafs of God. You can say that she is not a shadow, but from the reality of God. He's talking about the nafs. This is very deep, my beloved. When I say that everything is from Adam, I mean by Adam all of the humanity. The body of a person returns to the earth, to the mother of the presence. But where is the nafs? Where does she go? There is only one nafs. Like the sun, she sends her light to everything. And the nafs has 7 stations for everyone, for every kind. You walk and everything walks until it walks like you walk. Everything Allah created is part of you. When you walk, it walks. For this reason, Allah made you Khalifa, because you are Adam. You can use anything, but be very careful and know how to give and how to care for everything through walking and understanding. For that, he who understands the reality of God is very soft and carries all the love and all the peace and all the mercy for everything, because he understands that everything carries the reality of Allah. For that, when he is walking on the earth, he is very soft. Allah says it is important for everyone when they walk to be very careful walking and to carry all the holiness and to not look at anything with the wrong eye or to walk in the wrong place, to not hit, to not kill, to not steal. Clean yourself. When you know yourself, then you know your beloved God. So I say that the person who knows himself knows how to return himself and to understand what the nafs mean. This is the nafs of Allah. Do you know what I mean? In that moment, he is deeply praying. More than that, he is in the deep knowing. In this way, he lives in the world of the unity completely, without separation, without numbers. In that moment, he begins to not see anything, only God. Sometimes he still returns back to the presence and sees something not right from another. But this is not from the other person. Again, sometimes he returns back to the presence, back to his humanity, and he sees something not right from another. But this is not from the other person. If he returns again to himself, maybe he sees something inside himself that is not right. If so, it is important to fix it. If he fixes it, he begins to walk again. In that moment, God gives him help because he loves God. Phew! Pretty high bar. Before I go into the chapter, Brothers in God, I just wanted to see if there's any questions or comments on that reading from the Song of the Flute of the Deep Knowing. Whoa! Sorry about that. Are there any questions or comments? Rashida, do they know how to raise their hand or whatever? Or how to get unmuted?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
Yeah, so please, if you have, if you have any questions, just raise hand. And do you have a question? Yeah, so any questions? No.
Okay.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Amina. Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum
Nura.
salam. Oh, it's
Yes,
you.
so I was
Hi.
Hi. I was wondering if when he talks about God gives the nafs, and then so is he returning his nafs to Allah so that they can be purified?
I think what he means is that we purify it and then that returns it to Allah. In other words, we can't think of the nafs as just something that's messed up and wounded. This is one of the reasons I wanted to read this, because he says the nafs of God. So there's a perfect nafs, a purified nafs. So he's saying if we can purify our nafs and be present fully with the reality of Allah, then our nafs will return to Allah because it's in perfection in that moment.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that clarification.
You're welcome. Yeah. Thanks for the question. Somebody else, there's some chats. Amina Knox, salam alaikum. Wow. Did he mean that if we see anything ugly outside of ourselves, it's actually inside? I think that's what he meant in that particular place. Yeah, and I'm going to get into that more in a few minutes. from Sabira Herminia. Salam alaikum. Hola, chica. This is very unique information. So what happened if you did not know this? Well, we're all still works in progress and we're all still learning. And there's so much that Sidi gave us that I don't know yet. You know, he gave us so much. Oh, yeah. A lot of regret about that. But anyway, yeah. Anything else? Any other comments or questions? Okay. All right. So we're going to go on to the chapter, Beloveds of God. Let me just pull up my page. Well, I have a little intro first. Yeah. Peace and unity come from living in wholeness on the inside and on the outside, living in wholeness. In the unity, there's only oneness. There's no parts at all. There's no you, there's no me. Inside of us, there's no he, there's no she, there's no inner child, there's no inner male or inner female. Emphasizing those because some of you haven't heard me say this before, but this was Sidi's reality. Inside of us, it's all one. So when we start to pay attention to parts and label them and name them, that's actually giving the part more of a partness, if you know what I mean. And it's creating more separation inside when our goal is to really integrate all our parts and become one. So anyway, inside and outside of us, all there is the oneness of Allah. This is the meaning of the holy phrase, La ilaha illallah. There's nothing but Allah. In the realm of the unity, there are no parts to be in conflict with each other. There's just peace. So what that means is that inside of us, there's no parts. So there's no inner conflict. There's no jihad. And outside of us, there's no conflict because we know that it's all one. We're all one on the outside too. Leaving the realm of the unity and moving into the more familiar physical world, Allah created duality, opposites, on the outside and on the inside. At the highest level of duality, the world of divine names, Allah created pairs that, when seen through the eyes of Allah, are bound together in oneness. And if you remember on page 151, I think it is, and he who knows himself knows his Lord, Sidi talks about the pairs of the names, and he says the only name that Allah didn't give a pair to is Rabb, the Lord, the divine nurturer and cherisher. So that name is kind of a name that holds all the other pairs of names within it. But all the other names are paired up. So even at the level of divine names, there's duality. In this physical world, we have seemingly non-unified dualities such as hot and cold, beautiful and ugly, harsh and kind, mind and body, and spirit, I should say. Right, wrong, powerful, powerless, parent, child, boss, employee, etc. This is true in the animal kingdom as well. Predator, prey, cat, bird, lion, mouse. With duality, separation and opposition are inevitable. In this world of duality, separation and opposition are inevitable. And as these opposite poles of duality unfold in the respective nuances or shades, we exist in a world of multiplicity. There are multiple types, genres, tribes, nationalities, philosophies, identities, genders, so many opportunities for conflict. The same applies to our internal self. At the deepest level of our hearts, we are in unity. But for most of us living in this regular physical world, we are not conscious of the unity all the time. We are conscious of our multiple parts inside. our ego, our superego, our shadow, our victim, our oppressor, etc. These parts are usually vying for power and superiority, with the result that we are ill at ease, struggling, even chaotic. Our identity tends to vacillate back and forth among these parts, not very peaceful and not very unified. How do we deal with multiplicity and especially diversity? How do we deal with the fact that we're all really different? It's all very well and nice to say we love each other and we love the earth. But what about when someone cuts you off in traffic or gives you negative feedback at work? How about when floods or oil spills and other environmental disasters mess up your life or the lives of the people you care about? Where is the unity and the love then? Healing means living wholeness. How do we obtain this wholeness? For us, for the Sufis, there's prophetic healing modalities and spiritual practices which over time lead us to shed the veils that are on top of our true, unified nature. From this, our diverse inner parts are gathered into oneness and we are at peace. Then real peace and unity on the inside, God willing, spreads out to the home, to the family, and to society. So it's important for us to learn to examine our own part in our different relationships, to take responsibility for the issues and wounds that are triggered within us, and to search for ways in which other people, our partner, our coworker, our friend or family member, reflect hidden aspects that live inside of us. Allah doesn't change anyone until they change what is within themselves. The truth is that we can't change another person, but we can work on ourselves. And through that, our relationships will change. Even when it really, 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 really seems to be about the other person. A self-responsible way of viewing things is much more effective and satisfying in the long run. The Sufis say that what comes to you is for you and from you. It's from Siddhi's book, Reality of Gnosis. What comes to all of us is for us, always. And ultimately, it comes to us from our Lord, Allah. I'm referring here to the notion of mirrors, that we are all reflections of one another. We were created from one soul, and even though we appear to be different and unique, at the deepest level, we're all one. We're like fractals or pieces of one mirror, all reflecting back to each other our various parts and qualities. So now I want to get to the chapter. That was just kind of an intro and really an overview to this chapter, Brothers in God, and I'm going to read excerpts from it. I'm sure you've all read it. Hopefully you've all written it, since we've had to write Music of the Soul. Al-Ikhwan Fillah, Brothers in God. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Siddhi says, know, my picture, that you carry the face of your God, and from this face you carry many deep things. If he wants to show you his face, you need to give everything for this truth, because when you give to his face. In this face, you sometimes see the beauty, the Jamal, and sometimes the severity, the Jalal. Although he shows you everything through these two faces, there is no difference between them. After you clean outside, he will bring you to another station because he also wants you to be clean inside. Then you are a slave. Be with the guide as wool between his hands and listen to what he says, because his voice is the voice of your God. His voice is also the voice of your brothers and sisters. Be polite with this voice because he wants you to be special for him and he wants to help you to walk in the way. This is very strong. You cannot walk if he does not help you, but I am certain that he helps you. When he takes you to live in this way, he does not leave you. First, help yourself. And after you help yourself, help your brothers and sisters. So, a couple comments. I imagine that many of you have tasted those moments when the Jamal and the Jalal come together and it feels like there's no difference between them. Normally, as humans, we're sort of buffeted back and forth between those two poles, the ease and the severity or the difficulty. Some things are easy, some things are hard. And we kind of just go back and forth and our hearts turn back and forth between them. But after walking some, we get to the point where, at least in moments, the Jalal is the Jamal and the Jalal is the Jamal. In other words, we get to moments where something that has ease in it, we can see that there's challenge in it, and something that has challenge or difficulty has some places in it where we can feel grateful. And those are those moments when the Jalal and the Jamal come together. And when he says after you clean outside, he'll bring you to another station because he wants you to be clean inside. Outside is the Sharia, is our protection, and it's what helps us to clean our limbs and helps us to follow Allah's commands and avoid the prohibitions on the outside. And then when he brings us to another station, because he wants us to be clean inside, that's when he brings us down into the heart and then into the soul. And when we are able to clear those pictures with Allah's help and Allah's will, then those become clean. The inside becomes clean. He says, then you are a slave. Then you are wool between the hands of the guide. When your heart and your soul have really, really cleaned, then we're in a station where we're just, the body in the hands of the washer, let's say. And then he says, first help yourself. After you help yourself, help your brothers and sisters. And it sounds really simple, but I wanted to highlight it because so often, and I think I used to be like this, I hope it was used to and that I'm not anymore, but we're helping other people, we're giving, we're serving, we're working for, we're doing tasks for, doing acts of kindness for other people. And sometimes it's depleting for us. It's at our own expense. And what that tells us is that we haven't helped ourselves first. And in that case, by helping ourselves, we mean we have to tank up with the presence of Allah. We have to do spiritual practice, remembrance, all weird, pray salat, whatever it is that helps us to fill up with the real presence of Allah. And then once we're full, then our giving and helping others is coming from a place of wahab, of overflowing, and then it's not depleting. So I'm saying that to all of you just as a reminder to really watch yourselves and watch your giving and be careful to make sure that you fill up and are giving from a place of fullness. Because if we're not giving from a place of fullness, then we're not giving from the heart, the generous heart, that it truly is the giving heart. Then we're giving from some other thing in our nafs that's telling us we should give or we have to give, or we have to do this or help this person, or it's the best thing to do, or we want to be a nice person. But that's not the same thing as giving from an overflowing heart. So I just wanted to highlight that. Are there any questions or comments at this point? No? Go on? Okay. We're still reading from page 43, Music of the Soul. Be the earth, C.D. says, and let everyone who needs this earth walk upon it. If you are not the earth for your brothers and sisters, who will carry them? Can someone who lives outside carry another? No, only you can carry him and only he can carry you. Be polite with him because everything is from the polite. If anyone is not polite, God will not help him and give him what he wants. Be with Allah or he will discharge you. But I am sure that after Allah has put you in his heart, he wants to keep you inside and to give you the mercy and the peace and the love because you carry his face, and this face is the jewel. Do not lose this face. If you lose it, you lose everything. So I want to point out here that when he says, can someone who lives outside carry another? No, only you can carry him and only he can carry you. There's different ways of hearing this. And one of the ways he means is outside of the teachings on the love and the teachings on the mercy and the peace and the freedom and the beauty. Someone who's outside of these teachings. But I feel like he also means someone who's focused on the outside cannot carry another. And that goes back to what I was saying about help yourself first. If I'm focused on the outside and on giving to others, and I'm not watching my own heart and my own spirit and my own physicality to see if I'm okay to give, then I'm just focused on the outside and I can't carry anybody from that place because there's no foundation under it. There's no presence. There's no Allah there inside of me. So I'm carrying the person for myself, and you can't do that. After a while, it's just too tiring. And then be polite with him because everything is from polite. If anyone's not polite, God will not help him and give him what he wants. So in a way, he's moving through stations here without really saying it. He started with the nafs and being clean on the outside, the Sharia, following the commands, avoiding the prohibitions, cleaning your limbs. And then he moves into cleaning on the inside. And then here he's talking about helping people, giving mercy, and carrying people and giving the polite. Well, he's basically touching on a lot of the heart stations here. And the adab is one of them, the polite. That's one of the soul stations, sorry. But anyway, I feel like he's going in deeper and deeper in these lines. And then finally he says, if anyone's not polite, God will not help him and give him what he wants. Be with him or he will discharge you. But I'm sure that after he has put you in his heart, he wants to keep you inside there and to give you mercy and peace and love. So what does it mean, discharge? Well, I asked C.D. this because, of course, many of us, when we first read this, we were scared to death. Oh my God, would God really discharge us? I was just reading one of the chats from Ali. I'll respond in a minute. Ali, salam alaikum, brother. So discharge. So discharge doesn't mean that Allah literally rejects us. It means that he gives us more distance rather than more proximity. But it's not like he's putting us in timeout and not talking to us ever again. It's just that however much proximity we had gained up until that time, which basically is denoting which station we're in, then he takes us and he puts us a little bit further away, like into a lower station. Because each of the stations represents a veil between us and our Lord. And as we cross through each station, that means that that veil has dissolved and that we are closer to our goal. So if he's discharging us, then he's putting us back behind one of the veils that we thought we had released, but then it turns out from our actions we really hadn't because we weren't polite. So he's just putting us a little bit more distant. That's what he means by discharge. So it's still a serious thing, but it's not as scary as what it sounds like. And probably the problem is the language, English. So Ali's question, what does it mean that there are no numbers? Does it mean there's no division, just one? Yeah, he's talking about when you're in the unity, there's no parts, there's no qualities, there's no differentiation between anything and anything. It's the unified field. It's all oneness. So there's no one, there's no two, there's only one. Is that clear, Ali?
Yes, and thank you, Nura. Assalamu alaikum.
So good to hear your voice.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else? No, I didn't think that meant, beloved Herminia Severa. It just meant that there's more to learn. Yeah. Yeah, it just means there's more to learn. It doesn't mean that we're more impure, but we're lifelong learners, right? That's how we stay young. Anybody else? Okay. Okay, moving on. Now he's starting to talk more specifically about our brothers and our sisters. And you need to know, some of you already know this, but for Sidi, we really are all one family. For him, that's a very real, grounded phenomenon. It's not just a philosophy, and it's not just an idea. Everybody, all of us, are brothers and sisters, like really, under one mother and one father. And that means all of us, all of humanity, not just all of us in this tariqah, or all of us Sufis, or all of us Muslims. Sidi meant everybody. All of humanity are brothers and sisters under Adam and Eve, the one mother, the one father, and Allah, the one God. So he's talking about, when he talks about brothers and sisters, he's talking about anybody in humanity, including neighbors that aren't necessarily on your path or don't even necessarily have much in common with you. Okay. When you do not keep your brothers and sisters in your heart, you lose the face of Allah inside. This is what I mean. Keep your brothers and sisters special in your heart and give them love and peace and help and mercy. This is the meaning of brothers in God. This is what every student needs in this way. If you did not have a brother or sister to help you, you would not reach and you would lose your time. God asks you, why did you lose my time by losing brothers and sisters? So he's getting at what's the meaning of our ummah, what's the meaning of our community. And in this case, the ummah really is the ummah of Muslims. But when he talks about brothers and sisters, like I said, he means all of humanity too. So why do we need each other so much? Well, a couple things. One is we help each other, like we teach each other things, and we listen to each other, and we have conversations, and we learn from each other in that way, and we grow from each other in that way. So it's not just by these outward things, by talking and listening, but even by our example. Even if we're not talking or listening, we are role models for each other. So the more we watch each other in our daily lives, the more we learn how we want to be and how we don't want to be. And Sidi said, when we see somebody that's the way we really want to be, that we really admire, don't turn them down, don't tear them down through envy or jealousy, but just thank Allah that He's given you that example in front of you and ask Allah to help you be more like that person. And if we see somebody who's the way we don't want to be, which is really common, of course, then thank Allah, because Allah is showing us what we don't want to sink to, the actions and the words and the thoughts and the level that we don't want to sink to. So either way, this is the man with the pure white mind, and either way, the other person is a teaching for us in their example. It's either example we want to emulate or example we don't want to emulate, but either way, it's a wake up, it's a teaching. And that's one of the ways we help each other. Does somebody want to say something? No? Okay, then you should mute. CD says, I want you to walk like me, to be inside this earth, not on the outside. Everyone can live inside this earth. Go inside and grow to be a holy tree so you can give holy fruit. Isn't that a beautiful metaphor? Go inside and grow to be a holy tree so you can give holy fruit. First, the tree gives flowers. From these flowers come beautiful fragrances for everyone to smell. Anyone can take what they want from this tree. Be a holy tree. This tree is the tree of brotherhood. And from this tree comes all the light. Wouldn't it be beautiful if each of us could really become a tree that gives off light to other people, and they could sit in our shade and gain fruits from us, from whatever is coming out of us, or examples that we give or whatever, and have a holy fragrance of the flowers from the tree and just emanate light for everyone. Wouldn't it be beautiful if we were all that? And then he says, when you're this tree, don't forbid anyone to sit near you. Give him light, give him mercy, give him peace. Be a holy tree. This is what I want for you. So don't forbid anyone to sit near you as the tree. Don't forbid anyone to sit near you. Now CD's getting more into the nitty-gritty of being brothers and sisters and what it really means. In other words, he's saying don't shun anybody. Don't reject anybody. As you know, the Quran says, don't condemn a person. You can condemn their actions. You can hate their actions, but the person isn't the same as their actions. So don't forbid anyone to sit near you. You know how, or especially when we were children, if we went into a room and there were chairs and we got to choose instead of having assigned seats, we'd want to sit next to our friends. And by the same token, there were people that we did not want to sit next to. Remember that? The girls didn't want to sit next to the boys didn't want to sit next to the girls, and people didn't want to sit next to their enemies. And sometimes maybe we're like that now, I don't know, but that is a natural human tendency to want to be with those you love. And CD's saying, don't forbid anyone to sit near you. So he's saying, open your branches to anyone who wants to sit in the shade under them. He says, this is what I want from you, to be the teacher in this way. Be a rose so that everyone can see this rose. This is the rose of truth. Do you know what I mean about this rose? This rose is your brother and this rose is your sister. When you know what I mean by your brothers and sisters. My son and daughter, listen to what I say. You need to live for your mirror all the time. What is your mirror? Your brother is your mirror because you can see his picture in your face. You can see your face only in this mirror. Don't break the mirror, but keep it inside your soul and be polite with it. He says, you can see your face only in this mirror. So this is part of the significance of brotherhood, is that how we help each other because we are mirrors for each other. And this means we're mirrors of each other's beauty and we're mirrors of each other's weaknesses and mistakes. So when we see a mistake in somebody else, he's saying, this is a mirror for you. And when we see the beauty in another, he's saying, this is your beauty. That's harder, I think. I think it's a harder step to really own the beauty as a mirror than it is to own the mistake. I think it's a pretty hard step, actually, and a very spiritually mature step to own the mistake that we see in the other and to say, okay, what part of me has some similarity to this? And Allah, please clean it. But I know from experience, because I've done this hundreds, maybe thousands of times, this is how I live my life, each time that we get that we have a piece of that which we see in somebody else that we don't like, each time we get it and we bring it to Allah, there's such a feeling of relief, release, and freedom when we take responsibility for our parts, for the things we see out there. It's really, actually, at first it can be really shameful and we want to put ourselves down because it's like, oh no, I don't have that thing. I don't want to have anything like that person. But when we really get this teaching and embrace the truth of it and look at what that person has and then see it, even if we have 100th of that same quality inside of ourselves, that same mistake or weakness, and we own it and we really bring it to Allah, there's a real sweetness, a fragrance to it. And I feel like Allah really wants that from us, and that He changes things inside of us once we've done that, and He makes it a lot easier for that particular quality to clear. But we have to do it with mercy. We can't do it with self-hatred. We can't do it with vengeance. We can't do it with compassionlessness. We need to really bathe that place in mercy, and then Allah comes. Because if the place is surrounded by self-judgment and hatred and rejection, there's really a wall around it, and there's no way for Allah to come in there and really clear it from us. I mean, Allah could, because Allah can overcome anything. But the fact is that Allah comes much more readily when we surround our own weaknesses, our mistakes, with mercy than astaghfirullah al-azim, and He just pours on the mercy and comes running in to clear it. Are there any questions or comments? Really? Okay, cool.
Assalamu alaikum. I have a
Walaikum salam.
question about this clearing.
Yes.
Like once I find my fault and then clear it or try to clear it, and next time I see that person, will I see it differently? Like how different? I will still.
Have you had the experience yet?
Not much. That's
Okay.
maybe.
Yeah, I've had the experience. Yeah, you see them differently. I mean, they might still have that quality, but you have compassion for them. You've all heard me talk many times about all my issues with my mom. And you've maybe even heard me say this, what I'm about to say before, Ali, I can't remember. But, you know, my mom was super, super controlling and suffocating. And it was really hard for me. I just pushed against it all the time, and I really gave her a hard time because I just wanted space. So even into my adult years, even into my 40s, and embarrassingly, even into my 50s, I was still pushing against her and resentful about this. And then one day, in my late 50s or early 60s, I forget exactly when, I had this epiphany. Well, before that, I used to say to my mom, why are you doing that? You know, why do you barge in on me when I'm in the bathtub when I'm 16 years old? You know, why don't you knock? Or why this, why that? And she would always say, she'd cry and she'd say, I don't know what you're talking about. And I would think, this person is really wacko because she knows she did these things and she just doesn't know what I'm talking about. Okay, so then I had this epiphany eventually where I realized that my mom had a problem. And I think it was an OCD thing, obsessive compulsive, the controllingness that she had. And I think underneath it was tremendous fear. But most of my life, I couldn't see the fear. All I could see was the control defense pattern on top of it, you know, because that's what was affecting me. But once I saw that it was a defense pattern and unpacked it and saw the incredible fear behind it, I saw her differently and I reacted to her differently. Because for a lot of that time after I realized that, she was still behaving that way until her very, very late years when she got so old and so soft. But up until then, she, you know, for like 10 or 20 more years, she was still behaving that way. But I had a really good chance to realize that it just wasn't doing to me what it had done before. I wasn't pushing away from it. Every time I saw it, I would just go, oh, there she is in that pattern. And I really saw her as a helpless person at the effect of this huge fear, which was caused by something in her life, for sure. You know, and in that sense, she couldn't help that. And she didn't do the kind of personal growth work or self-discovery work that we did to unpack it and, you know, decode it and undo her defense patterns. And, you know, she didn't do any of that work. So she kind of remained the same most of her life. So it just, when I saw it differently, it actually, and towards the end, it just didn't even affect me. It was as if I wasn't standing there being the one that she was grilling all those questions. And I learned something from another relative, my sister-in-law, who was my sister-in-law and didn't grow up with her, but my sister-in-law would use those behaviors and do a sense of humor thing with it. My mom had a great sense of humor, so my sister-in-law would make light of it, and I learned to do that. But I don't think I could have done that during those years when I was taking it also personally. So I saw her differently, and I was affected. I wasn't affected by it. So it really changed. And then eventually she did change. But in her case, I don't think that had anything to do with the change in me. I think she just got so old that holding up that defense, she didn't have the energy to. But I have had many, many other examples where I found the place inside of me. Well, yeah, I had to do that, by the way. I had to find the controlling stuff inside of me. And all I had to do was go to my kids to find out it was real, like a reality check. Although I have to say it wasn't like my mom. I hope they don't think it was. But anyway, maybe they do. But anyway, I did have to find that place inside of me and return that to Allah. But the main thing was that it just wasn't affecting me anymore. But I have had many other situations where I've found something on the outside that I didn't like, that I was resisting, and I would find some part of me that had something similar, and I would ask Allah for healing. And this wasn't like it happened all in one sitting. Sometimes it took years, you know, of persistent work and asking Allah and trying to let it go. But then once it was gone. A good example would be me and Wadud. For the first half of our marriage, I saw him as a very, very arrogant person. And I thought I was humble, by the way, at that time. And his arrogance really triggered me. And then when I learned the lesson on mirrors and finally was brave enough to take it on in that context, I was like, okay, so what's the arrogance inside of me? And at first I was like, well, I'm just not arrogant. Which is, of course, very arrogant, but I didn't know that at the time. I just couldn't see it. Honestly, it took me at least a year to find it, but I kept looking because I knew the principle held of the mirrors. And then, of course, once I saw it, once the blind spot was removed, it's like, oy vey. And then once I saw mine, it's like, who cares about his? I got work to do. So then I stopped witnessing his and was just like, oh, Allah, please help me. And I can't put it in the past tense because I still find places of arrogance inside of me, you know, that I don't mean, but they're there. And so, Allah, please help me to clean this, and please help me, and please help me. And my focus is on me and cleaning. And funnily enough, Wadud does not seem arrogant to me anymore at all. And I don't know if that's because he changed or I don't see it. I just see him as very, very humble now. So that's a good example of what I'm talking about. Does that help, Ali?
Yeah, tremendously. Thank you so much.
All right, so now here's the next part. And we're upping the ante now to where it gets harder, I think, like stronger medicine, so to speak. CD says, you see many different things, and all these things are from God. He wants to show you himself in all these things. So all these things are from God. Going back to my stories, my mother's OCD was from God. Wadud's apparent arrogance was from God. And all the different things that have happened in my life where people have, quote, done something to me, where I've blamed them or judged them or, you know, held them to account or held a grudge against them, those things are all from God. Now, it's easier for me to say than for some of you because I wasn't like royally abused or anything like that. I just had your normal neurotic dysfunctional family, but nothing too major. but, we're not going to get here into the thing of, excuse me, you mean it's from God that I was abused? Well, some person took what God was giving them and distorted it really badly. And because God gave all of us free will, that person used what God gave them from his own free will in the wrong way and made a mistake. But when you trace it all the way back, it goes back to Allah. It's just that Allah gave us free will, and that's where he gave us permission. Not that he enjoys it, I don't think, but he gave us permission to make mistakes and to do things wrong. So back to Sidi. You see many different things, and all these things are from God. He wants to show you himself in all these things. Sometimes he shows you himself in that which you do not like, the Jalal. And sometimes in that which you do like, the Jamal. Know that there is no difference between these two. They are the same. Know that these two pictures are one, and this is the picture of your brother and sister. He shows you these things because you need to see them for whatever reason. I needed to have cancer in order to learn whatever I learned. We need to see ourselves, and Allah uses all kinds of different ways to try to show us ourselves. And I think that sometimes he uses ways that are pretty easy for us, and sometimes he uses ways that are maybe harder. But he's showing us ourselves, and he's showing us himself through it, his qualities through it. He shows you these things because you need to see them. These pictures come as if on a television screen, and later you see in these pictures what he wanted to show you. So at first you just see the story. My mom was crazy and she drove me crazy. That's the television screen. That's the story. And then later, inside that picture, I finally saw what Allah wanted to show me, that my mom was at the mercy of her own life and her fear. And, what looked so strong and powerful was really the mouse that roared inside, tons of fear. He wants you to grow stronger by meeting these pictures because he wants you to be complete and to have strength. He gives you his face now and does not leave you. So once we see these things about ourselves, before I said that it's incredibly freeing to own these things that are inside of ourselves. But he's saying not only is it freeing, but it makes us stronger. The more we know ourselves in our Jalal and in our Jamal, the stronger we can be, because we can sort of go, yeah, I have that quality, and it doesn't make me a terrible person. I'm still okay, and I can still do good things in the world. He wants us to be complete and to have strength. Now, here's something interesting. Sidi says, sometimes he gives you another kind of chance when he shows you a picture before it comes. This is to help you to be strong when it meets you. After a time, this is the picture of your life. He is with you. So this is the case where sometimes we foresee something before it's happened, either in a dream or in waking state, or we hear something. It happens to me a lot that I hear what somebody's going to say before they say it. And like I'll often know that somebody's going to call me, and then they call me, and different kinds of things that I end up knowing are going to happen. And he says, he shows you a picture before it comes. This is to help you to be strong when it does come. So sometimes we foresee something and we're ready for it when it happens. And then he says, after a time, this is the picture of your life. He is with you. In other words, he's with us with the things that have come and the things before they come. And we see his hand behind it all, sending all these things to us. And that's the real picture of our lives. That we look at our stories, and so many of us, it's like, where is God in that story? I don't know. I never even thought about that. That's because the way we look at our story, God's absent. And we're not really noticing that God brought the story to us. He's the planner. He set it up. So if we get that he's with us and he's in the picture of our life, then he says, send mercy to anyone, because there's no one, only he. When you give to anyone, you give to yourself. You have nothing to give. You're very poor and he wants you, he's very rich. He wants you to be rich also. But you cannot become rich if you don't understand what I mean. So becoming rich means having all the knowledge, the knowing and the understanding and the qualities of Allah, the mercy, the justice, the peace, the love, the freedom. So it's really interesting when he says, after a time, this is the picture of your life. He is with you. And it's really a good spiritual practice when something happens that in your life that you don't like, for you to remind yourself, Allah sent me this story and Allah is with me in it. And see what happens to you when you do that. Why don't we do that right now? Take a little time to do that right now. So everybody close your eyes and think of a story. Think of something that's happened. It could be recent or long ago. It doesn't matter. It could be big or little. And just take your time to think of something. Okay, and as you're thinking of that event, let your heart feel it. Just notice how it's affecting your heart. Breathe into your heart so you can feel it. There's no judgment on this. We're not going to ask you to talk about it publicly, so you can stay private with it. So just notice how it's affecting your heart. Okay, and then notice how it affects your body. Are there any places that are tense or tight? Okay, breathe into those places. Okay, good. Now bring Allah into this sphere of you inside of this story. Bring Allah's presence into it, because Allah is with you, even in that story. See if you can make room for Allah's presence to be there. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. And let's take it the next step. Not only is Allah there with you inside the bubble of that story, but Allah is the one who planned it and set it up and created that story for you. See if you can take that in. And He didn't do it for you as a punishment. It's never about that. He did it from His love and mercy for you, even if it hurts. So it came from Him because He's the source, and He's always ever near. Qarib. He's always with you. and see what that does to your story. Now this could go either way. This could, what it does to your story, it could really enlarge the story and give you more space in it, or even help to remove the story and be with Allah. Or on the other end of things, this could give you some kind of a question to Allah of, why did you do that, Allah? And then that means that this story is set up to show you what your relationship with Allah is like at this time, so that you can start to work on it. Either way, it's giving you something. It's giving you a gift. We're in relationship with Allah all the time, and sometimes we have more distance and sometimes we have more proximity. And sometimes the things that, quote, happen to us actually make us upset with Allah and make us have more distance. And then we want to heal that. Don't want to stop with that picture. Don't stop with anything. Because if we can heal it, then Allah will reveal to us what the wisdom was. And then that's when we start to feel free. Anybody like to share what happened for you with that? Nobody? Nobody? You don't have to be embarrassed if you didn't have some wonderful freeing release, if it just gave you a teeny little bit or didn't give you anything.
Hi, Nura.
Hi.
This is Jamila.
Hey.
Hi.
Alaikum salam.
So that's what that did, was remind me of a very deep experience that had come up where I saw, it's like I saw this particular story that sort of had been the root cause of a lot of pain in my life.
Mm.
And I saw it juxtaposed to the gifts that came with it.
Huh. Wow.
Yeah. And it was like, oh my gosh, it's all part of the same thing. You know, it's just a stunning revelation.
Wow.
And yeah.
Oh.
And I said to Allah, in that moment, I was just in an altered state. There's no question. And I said, how do I remember this? And the answer was, remember my face. And he showed me that face. Anyway.
Mm.
But I had it was like, oh. Anyway.
That's so good though. Yeah, I can really relate. Just that's such a good telling of the story. Thank you. Thank you. You went all the way through.
Yeah, it was just stunning to see it go by. And so the process now has been to understand it, because it is so deep and so beautiful, and there's so much about it that it's like, I guess it just keeps unfolding, but I keep I don't know how to describe it. It's just like there's more to it than what I saw.
I understand. Yeah, I feel like you're saying there's layers and layers of understanding that, are still opening for you. Layers and layers of treasures. Yeah, that's how the Quran is. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Who else wants to share? Anybody else? No? Nobody?
I'll jump in.
Great.
So the thing that I focused on was a recent a friend of mine died recently. He killed himself actually, and I found him, and I feel like I'm dealing with that really, really nicely. Like I feel like I'm carrying his love and his kindness in my heart. Like so I don't feel like that's the issue. His husband is my best friend, and my issue is really with him. So what I'm finding is, I think this chapter really makes a lot of sense for me, I think, today, because I feel like I need to take care of myself on one hand. I need to do myself first, and at the same time I feel the need to sort of stay in contact with him. But being in contact with him is really difficult. He has been behaving in a way that's really difficult for me to be with, and it's actually a bit scary to be with him. In at times, like I spent the whole day with him, and he was really lovely. And then so I'm kind of going back and forth. I don't know who I'm going to have.
Yeah.
When I meet up with him.
Yeah, you understand he's in grief. So he's going to go through a lot of different phases, including denial and anger and avoidance. And
I think I've seen people in grief before. This is something that I've not seen before.
Okay.
There is a like a
sounds
harsh,
really hard
meanness in him, and I feel like I'm his friend, and I love him, and at the same time I feel like I will lose my own, like I'm not so secure in my own way, in my own path here. So when I'm around him, it feels like it's so easy to be taken off and into his harshness in his world, and at the same time I feel I love him.
Yeah, I think you really hit on it, about taking care of yourself, and really not just taking care of yourself, but watching yourself as you go through these next days, weeks, or months, when you're with him, when you're not, and seeing what you need. And then even when you're with him, watching yourself and seeing when you need to not be with him, when you're in danger of the contagiousness of his state or whatever, and just exit and take care of yourself and return to God. God is a source of love and strength and well-being, feeling okay with the world, balance and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it's good that you're thinking in these terms, because it's important right now.
But also the experience of bringing God into the picture. So when I think of my friend his husband who actually killed himself, there was a softness that comes to me, and a warmth and a place in my heart that feels very, at peace with him. And when I was trying to bring God into my heart with my friend, I could feel my back felt like really hardened, like I couldn't open at all. And sort of, so in this lesson, what what this chapter is talking about, or helping us to talk about, is if I see it in him, then it is likely in me.
It might not be the exact same thing, and I wanted to get back to Amina Alexander knocks on it, because it could be a piece of, like a speck. You know, you might have a speck of irritability that isn't coming up in this situation, but maybe it comes up in others. And he has a whole world of distastefulness that's, you know, 10,000 times the speck of irritability you have. And yet on the path to Allah, Allah's asking us to continue to clean and be impeccable about it. And it doesn't mean be harsh, and it doesn't mean be in a rush, because we can't, some of these things, we just can't clean them any faster than we can. And it's up to Allah when they get cleared, you know, but just to keep an eye on it and watch when it does. Probably whatever it is when you, and this for Amina Alexander too, once we see our piece, even if it's a small piece, I think Allah has a way of really magnifying it bigger than it is, just so that we're aware in the ensuing days or weeks, oh, there it is. I wasn't noticing it that much before, you know, but there it is. And oh, tomorrow, oh, there it is again. I thought I was in a really good mood, but here I'm finding that there's this little unexpressed irritability in me, and I didn't even know it was there, but Allah's shining a light on it, so I'm seeing it again. And then after a while, it's like you've got it right sized, and you're not being harsh with yourself about it. And eventually, when we get the message, then I think Allah clears it for us, you know. So I'm not saying it's irritability. I don't know what it is. It's up to you to figure out. I think for you and for Alexandra and for everybody, when we want to find the piece that's our piece, what I usually do is find out what about that other person, what's the thing that's driving me the most crazy about them. You know, like in my mom, it was the control, and in Wadud, it was the arrogance. So those were the things I honed in on. And once I saw, because like with some people, it could be a whole long list as long as my arm of things that drive me crazy about them, you know. But then I want to look at, well, what's the one thing that if you took all the others away, I would still feel just as triggered by this person because they have that one thing. And that's what my attention's going towards. And then turning inside, it's like, okay, Allah, can you show me where I have anything that's at all similar to this? You know, and I'll share something with you all. This is a little risky because I don't know where you all are, and this is kind of political, but in the Peacemaking Masters a couple of years ago, Jamil will remember this, Jamil Cruz, we did an exercise. It was when it was the rise of Trump time, and I can't remember if it was before or after he was elected, but everybody in that particular room was very triggered by him. So I was on safe territory saying, let's take Trump as an example of this lesson on mirrors. And I had them all go inside and see what was the thing about him that drove them the most crazy, and write it down. Like maybe take 3 or 4, write them down, and then rank order them from the worst trigger down to maybe the 3rd or 4th worst trigger. And they didn't have to share it or anything. I think we probably all got pretty similar things. But anyway, and I did it with them because I hadn't done it either. You know, it's really easy to just point the finger and make that person the monster, the enemy, or whatever, and not really take the step of, oh, we're one and he's inside of me. Now, you know, it's like a big step to take with some people. So anyway, I did it with them. So we figured it out. You know, we each found our own thing. And then I said, now ask Allah to show you if there's any peace inside of you of that. And at the time, it was a long time ago before as much as surfaces now, that I took the lying and the deceitful stuff. And I think of myself as very truthful. So I took that on to, you know, I was like, okay, kiddo, you got to see where your inner deceit is hiding, because you know, give lip service to being so truthful and honest. And I found things. I found more than one thing. And I just had to sit and wait until Allah kind of shine the light on it. And so then after I found it, I had them just try to surround that place with mercy, because we're all doing the best we can. And, you know, sometimes we don't think it's good enough, but we are all doing the best we can. So let's at least give ourselves mercy. CD says, give mercy, begin with yourself, just like help yourself first. So I asked them to just give mercy to that place, and I did too. And everybody, when we were done the exercise, and we did whatever clearing we could do right then. We probably did La ilaha illallah or astaghfirullah lazim. I don't remember. Probably did some practice together. But when we were done, everybody was in a really soft place. And when we shared how this person on the outside looked to us, even though we might have still had issues, it changed. Just like I was saying to Ali, like our view of this person shifted some. And since that day, which was a couple of years ago, it's not like I can say I love the person, although, we are called to love everybody, but I can say that my picture of that person is much bigger than the specific things that person does that might trigger me. I have a bigger picture, and Allah has a much bigger picture of the person and the circumstances and the events. Allah's picture is always way bigger than ours. And that's where our gaps of understanding are, because we can't see as much as Allah sees. And we tend to focus really narrowly on the one thing about that person that we can't stand, and we just make that become the whole person. It's like that person is a pure embodiment of that thing, that quality. And it's just like, we don't see anything else. Like with my mom, I couldn't see the fear behind her controlling. And I couldn't see the wounds that might have caused those fears until I later could. So it was just her controlling. And that's all I could see. And that's what I was reacting to. But once I started being shown more of the picture, what was behind and what had maybe led to it, blah, 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 that rounds it out. And it doesn't mean that I love her controlling, but it means that I do hold her differently. I hold her with compassion because I can see more. And then, of course, little by little, since know yourself, then you know your Lord. The same thing happens with ourselves as we see this little thing, in my case, the deceit, in that person that we were doing the exercise on in the peace class. And then little by little, so at first I'm like, not seeing it, and then I'm like, Allah, please show it, and I had to sit there for a while until it started dawning on me, different places where I had been less than perfectly honest. And then of course, as it's dawning, the sun is rising, and before I know it, the quality is like in my face, shining in my eyes, and it's all I can see. It's like, oh my gosh, I have so much more of that than I ever thought. And then we hold it with mercy, because that's how Allah holds us. Because that's how Allah holds us all the time. And then little by little, everything softens, and then we start to see more around it, like how that might have been a coping strategy for me, or why I felt it was necessary to do that at that time, or, whatever other things around that picture. It fills in the blanks. And then I'm seeing myself in a bigger picture and having more understanding. Sarah Khan, Sarah Rahima, are you wanting to say something? Because your name is right in front of me on my screen. No? Does anybody want to say? Oh, go ahead.
No, beloved, I just
can't hear you, Sarah.
I had to dial back in. So I may be going on your screen.
Got it. Nice to see your name. Nice to hear your voice.
Yeah.
We'll have to catch up. I know I didn't respond to your last email. Sorry about that. It was on my list of to-dos and hadn't gotten to it yet, so I'm glad I'm able to say I'm sorry to you right now. So we have a couple more minutes. Does anybody want to say or ask anything? No?
I have a question. It's a
Yes,
slightly
sir, brother.
similar. Like in school, we talked about, I forgot a little bit the explanation, that first we have to see see God in a person, in human, and later we have to see people in God. So what's the second part, if you could explain a little more how
Yeah, what is that quote
we see people
exactly?
in the,
Yeah. That Allah, what I think it is that Allah contains everything and all the qualities. So once we really know God, then we know that God can show up as, it's kind of metaphorical because God's not a person and God's incomparable, as we know, but God can show up as this or this or this or this or this or anything we see out there. It's a little different from seeing God in the person. It's seeing what's out there and going, oh, that's God. And this that I'm seeing on a human level is a piece of God. It's like God's in the world of multiplicity, God's a composite, like a collage. Forgive me, Allah, if that's a really bad analogy, but God's a composite. But in the world of unity, of course, God is just the absolute. And there's no seeing the people in God. So does that help?
yeah, thank you.
What it comes down to is La ilaha illallah everywhere.
Yeah.
Did you finish your training, Ali?
No, I just did the first 2 years, and I'm still planning to do. I'm right now doing nurse practitioner and trying to.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Did you finish
Oh,
that?
I see. No, I have 1.5 year left.
Oh, wow, it's long. Well, congratulations for really sticking with it.
Yeah, thank
I'm
you.
happy for you. It's great.
Thank you.
Yeah, awesome.
Anybody else? No? All right, let's close with, go ahead, Rashida.
Yeah, I just want to ask you, I know you are in the peace education and you're still working with that. I'm wondering if there are any conversation about starting projects, in communities where this is brought to the children, K through 12.
Beautiful.
Like really,
Yeah.
because
Well, it's an option for the peace people, and I actually used to teach mediation to children, which is a little different from what you're saying. But we're Abdul Qadir Davies and I are redesigning the peace program so that people who are not in it for the master's degree can take parts of it, either for credits or for no credits. And we're hoping we have to bring our proposal to the leaders of the university. We're hoping to bring it to them in November, and then hoping that if they accept it, that we can have our first offering for that program in April. And there will be some on-site sessions and a lot of webinars. And the people who don't want the masters will be able to pick and choose which pieces they want to do. Maybe they'll do all webinars, I don't know. But anyway, I just wanted to let you know because that might be something that would open up for you. I'm excited about it. And people can choose to do more with children. I've tried every class that we've had, I've tried to encourage the students to take on a practicum of doing it with children. And I've done it a lot with children, so I would help them, but nobody ever took me up on that one.
Yeah, maybe through unity, peace, and prayer, we could maybe think about, like a project that could be.
That would be beautiful. I did it in the local elementary school in Pope Valley. I volunteered for 6 years, I think. 6 or 7 years teaching peer mediation to children, which was teaching them emotional literacy and problem solving and how to arrive at agreements, and doing it with each other among the children without any adults running it.
Right.
And I taught that also in North Carolina for a number of years and helped write the original manual that we used. And I've also trained a lot of teachers and parents in it way back in the day in North Carolina. And it's really a worthy project. It really makes a difference for the kids' experience in school. Amina Pryor, are you going to say something about this? She was. Hi, Amina. Assalamu alaikum. She's one of our former students. Yes, my dear.
This was so beautiful. Thank you so much, Nura. Alhamdulillah. I just wanted to make a comment because you've mentioned several times about being caught in our own self-judgment about things.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to share briefly experience I had during last Ramadan, where things were coming up for me where I was just so incredibly caught in my own self-judgment. Just like it was so hard to look at it. And so there were two things that helped me. Was one, I was listening to Quran recitation, and just really making a prayer. I said to Allah, I know that you have said that the Quran is a healing for the believer. So please bring me healing through this recitation. And just listening, and just letting that kind of seep into this place where I was so caught in the self-judgment. And then in my self-judgment, I had this picture. And so then at one point, I just asked Allah to bring me CD spirit to help me walk through this place that was so difficult. And then after sitting with it for a little short time, the picture changed. And it was like CD spirit showed me where there was healing, or, like a different picture than what I was so stuck with. And
that's such a good
that was so beautiful. So.
That's such a good example. Thank
you. I just wanted to share that because sometimes, when we face up to these difficult things in ourselves, that our self-judgment can be so hard to walk through. So I just wanted to share a couple of things that have helped me.
Wonderful. Thank you. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Anybody
Thank you.
else?
Is there any other questions from everybody? I have questions. No. I think if there are no, is there anything else you want to add?
I just wanted to close with the
sister?
Fatiha.
Okay. Yeah.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir-Rahim. Maliki Yawm Iddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين.
Thank you. Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Rashida. Thank you for this.
Thank you so much. Yes, it was beautiful. Thank you for teaching us about brothers in God, and to be responsible for ourselves, and not to shun away from others, and to really see the mirror, and to embrace their beauty, and to also look and ask Allah to help us clean what we don't like about our brother or sister. That is beautiful. Thank you so much, and have a great evening.
Thank you.
Good night.
You too.
See you soon, inshallah. Bye.
Assalamu alaikum.
I never know how to quit this.